Welcome to the Coach Dustin Goodwin Show, sponsored by Russellville Mayor David Grissom. I'm Kadin Pounders for WGOL, and I'm, of course, here with Russellville Coach Dustin Goodwin. How you doing, Coach?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Just a couple of questions for you, Coach. We're going to kind of talk about this summer and in your preparation for the season, and then we'll talk about your opponent tonight against Deshler. But first, Coach, can you kind of tell us how the summer and fall camp has gone for you guys leading up to this season?
Well, spring, summer, and everything in between has really gone well. We didn't have everybody in the spring because our baseball team made a playoff run, and we were excited for that. And I think that's great because it gives us the opportunity to build some depth and work with some guys that may not get the opportunity to go in first. And so I think that's an invaluable time for us. This summer, I thought the team has really come together. The energy's been good. They're really getting along and they're working hard, and they've been a really pleasant group to work with, and fall camp's been no different. They're working really hard. We seem to continue to grow and be able to adapt to some of the things that we're asking them to do, and we're really fortunate with the group that we have, and looking forward to the season and see what they got tonight.
You're going into your second season as head coach here at Russellville. Kind of what's the difference between your first season here and going into your second season? Are the things you do different, or how you communicate, or just your relationships with the players?
I think one thing that's most important is, like you say, the relationships, because you go into year one and you're trying to figure everybody out. Some of the guys on the staff that may be new, the players are trying to figure out the coaches, and the players are trying to figure out each other because there's always new guys that join. And so those relationships have been established to this point and are great. We love our kids, and I love our staff, and fortunate to be at Russellville for sure. But they're doing everything that we ask them to do, and so it allows us to grow, I guess, and to really they know our language, so to speak, and how we do things, and so it makes it a little easier to game plan, I guess, going into week one. But the similarities between last year's group and this group is last year we had to replace a lot of people, and fortunately or unfortunately at this point we did that with a lot of seniors who we thought were the best guys for the job, and so we're going into year two, but we still have a lot of new faces. And so we don't really know how everybody's going to respond to certain situations until we get into them on a Friday night. So, tonight is step one in that process.
Like you talked about, you've got some young players on this team, and it is a young team overall, but you do have some returners. Quarterback Goodwin comes back on the offensive side. On defense, you've got guys like Kiefer Hallmark and Kadin Pounders, who's coming back from injury. Can you talk about some of those guys that are returning that will play a vital role in your season this year?
Yeah, anytime you get returners, it's great. Because there's that proof in the pudding. I guess they've shown that they were the guy for a reason, and they've got experience and they're battle tested. And so offensively, like you said, we have Witt at quarterback and Jackson Smith playing fullback and tight end some, and everybody else is really new, whether they got playing time or not. But as far as a full-time starter, they're new faces. And then defensive, we've got about 4 or 5. We've got Andres Gaspar, Kiefer Hallmark, Sam Wilson, Daniel Aycock, and as you mentioned, we have Ben back, and really glad to have him. He got hurt on the Tuesday of the first game last year, and so that was really a blow for us, and we missed him dearly, and we're excited that he's healthy and back and ready to go into the senior season.
Coach, what are some of the at the outset of the season? What are some of the goals this team has set for itself, and as you get along in the season, how will you consider wherever you end up at the end of the year, what will you consider to be successful?
Well, we can't do something that we don't have the ability to do, and we don't know what that is at this point. With all these new faces, we've really just challenged our coaches and our kids to be as good as they can be every day, and to maximize whatever talent we have. And at some point, if we do that collectively, and they continue to love on each other, to push each other, hold each other accountable the right way, then you take a bunch of guys doing their jobs correctly, then it can take a great team and make them exceptional. It can take a bad team and make them good, and an average team and make them great. So where we fall in that line, we don't know right now. A lot of that depends on your opponents and the talent level that they have, and how good a team they are. So all we can do is focus on us and stack days and maximize our potential and enjoy the ride.
We're going to take a quick break. Thank you, Coach. You're listening to the Coach Dustin Goodwin Show, sponsored by Russellville Mayor David Grissom. We'll be right back here on WGOL. Welcome back to the Coach Dustin Goodwin Show, sponsored by Russellville Mayor David Grissom here on WGOL. Coach, you're playing Deshler tonight. I believe that Deshler played a jamboree against Mars Hill last week. Were you and your staff able to take a look at that game? And if so, what kind of information were you able to glean from that game about Deshler?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to go over and watch it. And just like you would expect, both programs are high-quality programs. They do things the right way. They're extremely competitive and have some really good football players. So, we know this rivalry has been here for a long time, and it's a pretty even one, so you can throw classification out the window, and both communities have a rich tradition, are proud of their programs and support them well, and both teams, the kids tend to rise above the occasion, and give an outstanding effort on both sides of the ball. So we know it's going to be a competitive game. We know Deshler has some talented players and experience at quarterback and different positions in receiver and defensive back and linebacker, and they've got some really good players. We know we'll have to play well, execute at a high level in all three phases of the game to have a chance and take care of the football. But oftentimes at coaches, we seem to overcomplicate things. It's a simple game. If you block, if you tackle, and if you take care of the football, you'll have a chance to win. So those are the three main areas of focus tonight.
In the last segment, we kind of talked about the summer. You've talked about you're going to have to play guys both ways, and how important, especially right now, it's kind of hot out there today. Unfortunately, the game couldn't have been played last night when it was a little bit cooler. But with it being hot, how important is that summer program for you guys this year going into a game like this? Start of the year, it's hot, and you're going to be playing guys both ways.
Yeah, I mean, conditioning is a big factor in the game. You want to be able to play 4+ quarters, and if you can, it just really depends on the outcome of the game and how you fared, and how well you did. And obviously, the season's early. I mean, it's the first week of the season, so we know that we're ultimately not probably going to be in the shape that we're going to be in, week 3 or 4, because game shape is different than practice shape. You just can't mimic it, and but we think our guys are prepared. We have guys in place to step in if needed, and we're looking forward to them pushing themselves and giving us everything that they've got.
Based off what you saw, do you have maybe a plan of attack going into this game? I know you've talked about how you want to be more multiple and running past the ball a little more balanced than you did last year and exploit weaknesses. Do you have a plan of attack, and what do you expect to see from Deshler in this game?
I definitely expect them to be more balanced as well. Watching them last week, they were throwing the ball a little more than they do traditionally, and I think they want to be more balanced as well. So we'll have to be prepared for that. And offensively, you go into game 1 last year with a couple of quarterbacks that had no experience, so we didn't want to do anything, put them in a bad spot to cost you the game. But at this point now, we've got experience at that position, and so you would like to be able to open things up a little bit and find grass, whatever that meant, whether between the tackles, off tackles, outside or downfield. And I think we've got the guys in place that have practiced consistently enough to give us the opportunity to do that.
Coach, it's the first game of the season. I know everyone's geared up to play. I know you've talked about how ready you are just to get out there and start playing other people. But there's probably some nerves in there. What do you say to the team before first game of the season and try to settle those nerves if there's any there?
Well, just to be themselves. I feel like they're prepared to go do the job, but that performance anxiety can't be there. They need to go in and with a clear conscience and know they understand the rules and responsibilities that they're asked to do and go play with great effort. And that doesn't really matter what the score is on the scoreboard, but from the first kickoff to the final horn, I mean, we want their best. And if there's an injury or an ailment or a fatigue factor that's in the way that keeps them from doing that, then we want the next guy to step in and be able to continue what we're asking them to do. And like I said, this is a special group of kids, and they have high character, and we've really enjoyed the time we've had with them thus far, and I expect nothing other than that.
Like you've said, it's just a long-running traditional rivalry against Deshler. What will it mean for this Russellville team to get off to a winning start. Not only just to beat Deshler if you can, but also it's a really long season to get that confidence early on. What will that mean for you guys as the season moves along?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really matters what sport you're playing. It's always important to start fast, and it ultimately doesn't, have any bearing on your season as a whole or the success that you could have. But sometimes the hardest one to get is the first one, and then you get hot because the confidence there, and you know it can be done, and finding a way to win and believing that you're going to win, and the confidence it gives you when you find one. It brings teams closer together. Sometimes it takes agony and defeat to do some of those things, but we would obviously like to be on the good side of that coin and to start fast.
Is there anything else you want to add, Coach, about this matchup against Deshler tonight?
No, we're looking forward to it. We just hope everybody comes out and supports and is loud, and it's a great environment. We expect nothing less. We know Deshler is going to bring a good crowd, and look forward to Friday night again.
All right, thank you for your time, Coach, and good luck tonight. You've been listening to the Coach Dustin Goodwin Show here on WGOL. This show was sponsored by Russellville Mayor David Grissom. Please join us again here on WGOL again next week, same time, same place.